Welcome back to Generic Expats. Today we're going to compare and contrast the two recent cities explored on this channel, Mazatlan and Puerto Vallarta. We're going to start off by looking at the expat community, the transport options, then the malecon boardwalk. We'll move on to beaches and nature, the location, geography, the tourism and tourists, and finish off with the accommodation. Who's going to win? Let's see.
Round 1, fight!
Expats in Mazatlan. Mazatlan is quoted to have about a 500,000 person population, and with that 500,000, only 10,000 of these 500,000 people are the expats living within the city. It is a pretty small ratio when comparing it to Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta expat population has about 5 times more, with an even smaller population in the city at about 300,000. Therefore, when comparing Mazatlan to Puerto Vallarta, Mazatlan definitely has a more domestic, local feel. Puerto Vallarta is a more international, developed, touristic, beautiful, picturesque type of city with definitely a higher percentage of foreigners compared to the local populations that you see more in Mazatlan. Now, transport options. Mazatlan has a very unique culture of transport. It has 2 very unique options that other cities don't actually use, and I've literally only seen these in Mazatlan. That is number 1, the auriga, and number 2, the pulmonia. The auriga has a more of a truck and sitting on the back bed of the truck type of feel, whereas the pulmonia is kind of like a big go-kart or a big golfing cart that brings people generally from one side of the malecon, the boardwalk, the northern side, down to the southern side is, I think, the typical route. I think you can negotiate where you want to go and for how much you pay, depending on where you want to go. Puerto Vallarta has much fewer unique styles of transport options because since it is such a more higher end tourist city, it really has mostly taxis, and if you want to be on the more economic side, the budget friendly side, the local buses. Yeah, so when talking about transport in these 2 cities, Mazatlan definitely has a more interesting style of getting around. If you're enjoying the content of this video and want to support the channel, please subscribe, like the video, and if you'd like to contribute, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link on the description below. Okay, next up is the malecon or the boardwalk. This is probably one of the biggest differences between the 2 different cities. Some people like the boardwalk in Mazatlan, and some people prefer how the Puerto Vallarta is a bit more developed and a bit more secluded from traffic. Let's start with the malecon in Mazatlan. The Mazatlan boardwalk is really long. It's supposed to be the longest boardwalk in all of Mexico. It's continuously paved from near the Golden Zone, stretching down towards the lighthouse. Now, my favorite thing to do when living in Mazatlan, in terms of getting involved and getting some fresh air and doing some exercise, I would come down to the Olas Altas and run up to the Golden Zone, and then I would run back. It was from the Olas Altas to the Golden Zone about 7 to 8 kilometers of non-stop paved running right in front of the beach, which was great for me. I felt great. It had a nice sense of clean air the entire run, despite being right next to this main road that follows the ocean front. Having a road that is right on the malecon, this creates a bit of noise pollution. This creates an actual pollution for the air, and people that are more interested in having a secluded atmosphere, they aren't really happy with this type of malecon. The Mazatlan boardwalk for me was fantastic, and I wasn't put off by the cars, traffic, or pollution that is pretty normal. Puerto Vallarta, on the other hand, has a boardwalk that starts in the downtown area and it stretches down going south, and the only part that has traffic is that area in the downtown, and it goes from downtown all the way down to the romantic zone, the zona romantica, and it almost reaches Amapas. If you wanted to check out the actual boardwalk tour I released in my previous video, the 4K Malecon day and night walking tour in Puerto Vallarta. The Puerto Vallarta Malecon is a lot shorter than the Mazatlan malecon. So it is commercially developed for the bars, restaurants, beach clubs, and beach bars that are surrounding specifically the romantic zone that goes all the way down, getting close to Amapa's area. Puerto Vallarta's malecon is definitely a great spot for people that are looking for a more resort, commercial, short-term, let's go have fun and eat really good food at super nice restaurants. And there are so many to choose from, great bars, great restaurants, all on the malecon, facing the beach, right in front of the pier, for example. People looking for the nicer quality things, restaurants, bars, within walking distance if you're living in this area, it is an absolutely stunning place to walk around and to enjoy. Next is beaches and nature. The beaches in Mazatlan are a bit more dry and desert-like. They don't have a more wet tropical feel that Puerto Vallarta would have. Mazatlan has many great beaches to enjoy. The better beaches that I went to when I was living there were Olas Altas, which had this nice little cove in order to be able to swim and have calmer waters. And most of the malecon is right in the open sea area, so the waves are quite a bit bigger. However, they are all pretty manageable. I didn't go to it very often. I didn't explore those areas. When I went to the northern part of Mazatlan, I noticed that the beaches didn't really have much of a shoreline, and it didn't really call my attention. Therefore, I didn't really explore very much. It didn't seem that great. And there are some beaches on the outskirts and obviously outside of the Mazatlan city area. People didn't suggest these beaches outside of the city, and maybe it's because they aren't of super high quality. Talking about Puerto Vallarta's beaches is a whole different situation. Puerto Vallarta has a more wet, tropical climate that gives it a bit of a greener feel. Puerto Vallarta has many coves and many bays. These bays make the waves very nice to swim in, and you can see the surrounding mountains and green areas right from these bays. And they have really, really beautiful views. The beaches in Puerto Vallarta are phenomenal. Each beach I went to seemed to be better than the last, and that was very surprising to me. I didn't expect to see such amazingly high quality beaches. My favorite beaches were Misma Loya, Boca de Tomatlan, and even the more standard beaches right in front of the mall that I went to for my gym, which was the Golden Beach, as well as all of the main beaches that are in front of the Zona Romantica in the Malecon. They're all very, very beautiful areas. I think my favorite ones were on the city outskirts, when you're actually leaving the city going south. Something that Puerto Vallarta has that Mazatlan doesn't have is the surrounding beaches in the surrounding towns are absolutely phenomenal as well. I didn't go to Bucerias, but I was told it was fantastic. I did spend a lot of time in the Riviera Nayarit, which Nayarit is a different state, but it's very, very close. And this area stretching on to the north, going up to as far as almost going up to Mazatlan, has really, really beautiful beaches. This is a fairly easy category to claim a winning side. Location. Where things are is generally something you should keep in mind when you are looking for a place to move to or live in, and knowing how far you have to go to find certain things that maybe you won't be able to find in the city you're living in. Mazatlan. Mazatlan is a beach city. If you're looking to explore nearby beaches, there aren't that many great options really close to Mazatlan. La Paz is a port city that has really, really beautiful beaches in the Sea of Cortez area, which is right above where Mazatlan rests on the western side of Mexico. Mazatlan has a ferry that comes over if you are planning to go check out the Baja Peninsula. Once or twice per week, a ferry goes over to La Paz. Mazatlan has big cities quite far away. The best example of this is the capital city, which is Culiacan. Culiacan is about 4 or 5 hours away. I don't think people generally want to go there because people know that the historical meaning of this city, it has to do with some narco-related activities, and people are not really interested in taking those risks. A really beautiful beach town that I went to when I was traveling around the northern part of Mexico in Sonora and in Sinaloa was a place called Topolobampo. And this was a beautiful little beach town with a port, and it has also the same kind of desert dry atmosphere, but it is a very beautiful area. Mazatlan has a local distillery that is similar to what you would think of as tequila or mezcal, but it is not called these things because only certain places are allowed to be called tequila and mezcal, according to the tequila and mezcal masters. This distillery is called Los Osuna, and they make a agave liquor where you can find a similar experience to what you would be seeing in the tequila, the small town of Tequila in Jalisco. This is not very far away. It's about a 1 hour or 1 hour and a half drive from the main Mazatlan area, and it is a great thing to keep in mind for things to do when you're living there or exploring the nearby area. Another spot that people go to from Mazatlan is a place called Mexiquillo, which is going up the public road going into the Durango state. This is located high in the mountains, and it is a typical place for people to go to escape the super harsh, heavy humidity in the maybe end of spring, summer, and early fall months. This is an area that has low-key cabin lifestyle there. So people go there to escape the big city and the heat. On the other hand, Puerto Vallarta has many, many places that are super close to this city beach area. Puerto Vallarta is located in the state of Jalisco, and Jalisco is a very mountainous area for most of the state, and it has a lot of beaches along the coast that are quite beautiful. There is a state right on the border of the city that is called Nayarit, going north on the coast, the Riviera Nayarit, which is the Nayarit Riviera. It is a nice tropical weather kind of climate, just like Puerto Vallarta, with a lot of nice and popular places that people love to go and visit. For example, Bucerias is right on there in the border, as well as the Sayulita, more of a retro type of town, surfing community. And then it goes up to even as far as Aticama, which is going towards Mazatlan area. All of these are within a quite reasonable driving time. Going up to Sayulita from Puerto Vallarta is only about 45 minutes to an hour. And then going up to some of these other beaches in the Riviera Nayarit, we're talking about just a few hours driving distance going up to the north. Puerto Vallarta also has all of those beaches that we talked about going to the south. Jalisco has the capital city at a pretty manageable distance as well. Guadalajara is one of the 3 biggest cities of the entire country. That is actually a quite nice tourist area. Being close to a very large city is a big advantage. There is a few small towns that are in the Jalisco area, both manageable as well. Ajijic, which is on the lake below Guadalajara, and then the Tequilas, the famous little pueblo, little town that is where the name brand tequila comes from and where any liquor made from agave can be called tequila. And it is really close to another state called Colima. Colima is one of the smallest states in Mexico, and it has a nice beach, one very large port city that I went to visit actually, and it was quite a beautiful experience as well. This one is called Manzanillo. Manzanillo is another beach area that is a cool place to check out, and there is a nearby volcano. If you are the adventure sports type of person, having a nearby mountain or even volcano to hike at a reasonable driving distance again is another great advantage. Something Puerto Vallarta has that many places do not have is a very nearby hot spring called El Parque Ecológico Los Herbores, which is a place I never actually went to. These areas are very drivable with about 4, 5, 6 hours on average. Be able to explore the nearby areas, and knowing that there are so many options is a great thing for the location of Puerto Vallarta. Geography. Mazatlan has a geography that is a little bit less diverse than the Puerto Vallarta area. The city itself in Mazatlan is pretty much completely flat, and you can see how it stretches on for quite a few miles until reaching up to the mountainous areas that go up to the border area of Sinaloa into the Durango state. Now this has a nice view of the sunrise in the mountains, and then of course you can see the sunset at the beach every day. It's fair to say that Mazatlan's geography is a little bit less privileged than Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta's geography is fantastic. It has a beautiful mix of really good beaches with nice long stretching sands into the water. And as soon as the sands begin, in many instances, the mountains already are starting. And you can go up to many viewpoints to be able to see the different surrounding valleys and mountains. This includes lots of rivers and hikes, and it also has quite a bit of a more tropical weather feel, so you can see a bit of a greener look to the city within these mountains and valleys. Puerto Vallarta, in essence, I think has a slight advantage, being that it is a little bit wetter and it has the mountains beginning right at the beach level. Tourism and tourists. Mazatlan is quite possibly one of the biggest domestic tourism locations in all of Mexico. It is quite easy to see that there are many flights coming into Mazatlan from within Mexico, and that the people coming in are coming in for the weekend, Friday to Sunday, from the bigger cities surrounding that Sinaloa area. When I lived there, I saw lots and lots of people from the northern Mexico part, generally in the winter times when it's very cold up in the mountains, flying in and having a great weekend on the beach. So this type of atmosphere you're going to really see more in Mazatlan. Mazatlan is home to one of the biggest celebrations of Carnival, and it also has great parades during this time of year. Generally speaking, Mazatlan is a bit more of a local place. You will feel this local culture quite a bit stronger in Mazatlan than in many other tourist beach cities. Cancun and others are way more international. Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta has a type of tourism that is very international. It is probably getting close to the amount of tourism that Cancun has reached in the past many decades. It is definitely expanding, and it has been developing and becoming more beautiful and more developed commercially for years. It is quite easy to see when walking through the streets of Puerto Vallarta, especially in the malecon, that the type of people that are there are international. Usually tourists or the expat community. Maybe 25 or 20% of the population is this exact type of person, people from outside of Mexico itself, and usually from English-speaking countries, Canada, USA, and perhaps Europe and other places. The type of tourism doesn't really have as much of a domestic, local cultural feel that you would have in Mazatlan. It's more of an international area with beaches and going to the nearby beaches on hikes, or taking boats to the surrounding areas, to the islands, taking ships out to the sea with clubs, bars that cater more to the international vibes. Accommodation. Accommodation in Mazatlan is quite a bit more affordable than the accommodation choices in Puerto Vallarta. In the videos that I already published in my Generic Expats channel, we found that in Mazatlan, renting a one-bedroom in a very nice area in the Zona Dorada, the Golden Zone, was about $1,500 or even cheaper when getting longer-term deals. This is a very affordable price. When looking at the purchasing property that we talked about in Mazatlan, was $325,000. It wasn't located on the beach or with a privileged location viewing the sea. However, it was a very huge area, lots of space. The area was much larger than we saw in other accommodation videos. So I think we can see that the purchasing property prices in Mazatlan is also quite a bit more affordable than other beach cities, especially Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta, on the other hand, has rental properties that we looked at with my friends from the PVPVR, and they showed us a two-bedroom which had a slight ocean view with a price in the high season of above $4,000 and low season of around $3,000 and some. That being said, Puerto Vallarta has quite a bit higher cost of accommodation, specifically in the nicer areas. Romantic Zone isn't even the most luxurious nor upper class area of Puerto Vallarta, and it's around 3,000 to 4,000 and up from there, renting per month. The purchasing property we checked out in Puerto Vallarta, also in the Romantic Zone, was at around $500,000, about $500,000, but with an absolutely amazing privileged view. The apartment had a luxurious style to it with a lot of new appliances, and everything looked very nice. And it was a one-bedroom, but with a beautiful view of all of the sea and the Romantic Zone and surrounding areas. This one shows us that this one-bedroom in a privileged area is quite expensive. Mate, the tea of champions. What do you think? Do you think Mazatlan and its lower cost of living and its local culture makes this city a better spot to live in as an expat? Or do you think that Puerto Vallarta, with its luxury and its higher class areas with the nicer, wetter climate, is worth the extra money and is the better, superior place to live in Mexico? Let us know in the comments below.
Finish him!